Silence and Honey Cakes. A story about two of the desert monks who had obviously very distinctive personalities indeed. One of them is Abba Arsenius. Arsenius had been tutor to the imperial family and a senior civil servant in Constantinople, and had then gone off to become a monk. He was a man of enormous cultivation and education, who was renowned in the desert for his humility. He was renowned for silence and seclusion as well, and you'll see in a moment what that involved. The other character involved in this story is our friend Moses the Ethiopian, Moses the Black. A brother came to see Abba Arsenius at Scetis. When he came to the church, he asked the clergy if he could go and visit Abba Arsenius. They said to him, "Have something to eat and then go and see him." "No," he said, "I shall not eat anything till I have met him." So, because Arsenius' cell was far away, they sent a brother with him. They knocked on the door, went in, greeted the old man, and sat down without saying anything. And the brother from the church said, "I'll leave you now for a few minutes, pray for me." And the visitor did not feel at ease with the old man, and he said, "I'll come with you." And off they went together. Then the visitor said, "Take me to Abba Moses, who used to be a highwayman." When they arrived, Abba Moses welcomed them joyfully, and took leave of them with great expressions of delight. Now the brother who had brought the visitor said to his companion, "I have taken you to the foreigner, that is Arsenius, and to the Egyptian, Moses. Which of the two do you prefer?" "As for me," he replied, "I prefer Moses." One of the fathers heard this, and he prayed to God, saying, "Lord, explain this matter to me. For your sake, one flees from human beings, and the other, for your sake, receives human beings with open arms." Then 2 large boats were shown to him, floating on the river. And in one of them he saw Abba Arsenius and the Holy Spirit of God in perfect quiet. And in the other boat was Abba Moses with the angels of God, and they were all eating honey cakes. That wonderful little story is perhaps one of the most vivid expressions of that theme in the Desert Fathers, the distinctiveness of people's calling. And the sin, which I mentioned last night, of inattention, not being sensitive to the difference in people's callings, remains one of the great worries, one of the great corrupting and frustrating factors in spiritual life. Here we have 2 people reacting totally differently to human contact and human interest. One withdraws into silence, one embraces, and they're both all right. Silence and honey cakes are equally acceptable. But that particular vision is expressed perhaps even more economically in a very brief anecdote which is attached sometimes to St. Anthony the Great. It was revealed to Abba Anthony the Great in his desert that there was somebody in the city who was his spiritual equal. He was a doctor by profession. Whatever he had beyond his needs he gave to the poor, and every day he sang the Sanctus with the angels. That later on becomes elaborated into an anecdote in which some great old man says, "Is there anybody who's as holy as I am?" And God takes him off to the city and shows him somebody extremely ordinary just doing their job. That illustrates in concrete form that there is a kind of standing back before the mystery of the other. There are no standardized, generalized forms of holiness. Each one needs to discover what their path is. A brother asked one of the fathers, "Are you defiled by having evil thoughts?" There was a discussion on the subject. Some said yes, and others said no. The brother went to a very experienced old man to question him about the discussion. The old man said to him, "What is required of each one is regulated according to their capacity." What is required of each one is regulated according to their capacity. And you can see why, in the light of that, the whole business of passing judgment is so impossible. Passing judgment in the sense that the Desert Fathers so deplore. How do you know how hard pressure or temptation bore on somebody? A temptation which might seem to you trivial might be to another crushing. How are you able to say everybody ought to be the same kind of ascetic? What is hard for you might be easy for someone else. What is easy for you might be hard for someone else. There's an anecdote again of Abba Arsenius, someone complaining about the fact that Arsenius doesn't seem to exhibit quite the same degree of physical asceticism as everybody else. The old man who's dealing with the complainant says, "When you were in the world, what were you?" "I was a farmer," says the monk. "And when you retired at night, where did you go to bed?" "I just rolled up in a corner of the hut," said the ex-farmer. "And what did you have to eat in the morning?" "Oh, just a little bit of maize porridge." And the old man says, "When Abba Arsenius was in the world, he slept between sheets of silk every night and breakfasted off gold plate. You have experienced very little change in becoming a monk." So, individual vocation, standing back before the mystery of the other. And that standing back before the mystery of the other means that each person is given room in this spiritual world, room to grow as God wills.